Welcome to number 4 of our website builders live series. We're kind of getting in the groove of it now, and today you might have noticed a slight difference. I've got Ken
Hello.
joining the call. Ken Welcome is to number 4 of our
Oh,
we're getting a bit of feedback, live so series. Kind of getting in the groove of it now, and today you might have noticed a slight
am
difference.
I under your end?
That's my end. I didn't close the browser window down when it loaded up, so if you hear any background noise there, apologies for that. And we'll actually start now. So just as a reset, this is the beauty of live. I've got Ken with me, who's been our head of creative at Pixel Haze Studio for the last couple of years. And Ken's had permission to demonstrate, showcase a project that we've got actually halfway through the process at the moment, where I think, Ken, you've built some concepts for them in Squarespace. So it actually looks like a working live website. And the next steps then will be to flesh it out with content and provide more information,
Yeah.
and finish it basically. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've started on. So I went and visited Gareth at the Drop Zone Golf about 2 weeks ago, and we settled on an initial wireframe. So it's quite funny actually because they're at the moment they're in the middle of building the venue itself. So they're actually doing it themselves, building it with the tools. So the group of them they're a bunch of builders, and so
Okay.
I went there and it was all planks and boards and everything as they were putting it together. And so I took it was our remarkable tablet, and we just sketched it on the fly there and then. And it really helps just to see how it's taking shape there because they're doing it tooth and nail. Then it's taking shape. But one of the main issue we have with this project is that they want the website, need to get that all set up alongside social media, and we have a few content plans that we're going through now to get there, start generating some excitement now ahead of the project, ahead of the actual unveiling. But the main issue we have is that they don't actually have any photography. So there's no photography of the actual venue because it's still being built, and so we've had to find workarounds to show off the venue before it's actually finished. So that's one of the biggest challenges we had.
Yeah, it's quite a
So
common one, that.
yeah, so the Drop Zone Golf, so just give you a bit of background. So essentially, they have set up I want to say VR, but I think it's more, yes, it's more like a AR potentially. But essentially, they have these golf simulators, and how it works is there's a massive screen in the back. You come there with your clubs, or you can get them from the shop in house and try them out, and you actually hit golf balls towards the screen, and the sensors then take that data and put it into the simulator, and you can physically see your ball traveling across the course. Now, the difference of this is that you can load up any of the main courses from across the world, so you can just go straight in there. You don't have to. The main difference is, I suppose, so why would you do this over normal golf? Well, the difference is that you can do this any time of the year. Like if it's wet, you can come inside and use a simulator. There's no issues that the weather doesn't affect it. Um, you don't have to get in your buggy and travel for miles to going up to each course, and you can just it can all be done inside a simulator about the size of this room, which is relatively small, but it's more of a social aspect. So they're working alongside golf clubs near them to actually extend and be a part of that, and it's really cool actually. The simulators themselves, yeah.
So we're kind of looking at a combination of a pub, a golf simulator environment, and probably a golf pro shop where you
Yes.
can buy clubs as well. Or are they adding that at a later
Yes.
date? Is that coming
So
in
that'll
right now?
be they want to look at having a commerce section on the website itself, but that because Squarespace is quite fluid, we can actually install that later down the line. Now, at the moment, they don't have the products in sight, but they want to go for the launch, and then a few months in, then we'll start adding the inventory to the website so people can buy either in store or through the site. And what we want to do is have a Google, almost like a Google Street View or an interior, so they can see just have a bit of a taste of that. But the sites, they want to focus more on the social aspect with this. So an issue they have is that the photography they have has been supplied by Foresight, which is the simulator company, and a lot of it's pro golfers trying to improve their swing. People who they like going up to the golf club on a Sunday, improve their swing, go for a few rounds with their friends, and then go to the clubhouse afterwards. Now they want to expand that reach, so it's not just headed to pro golfers. And these simulators, alongside the golf, they actually have mini games, and there's another side of it. It's almost similar to, I mean, if you go out for the day bowling with your friends or your family, and there's actually a number of different mini games installed into here, so that people can just book this for the day, come inside. There's a bar just only about 20 feet from the simulators, so you can have your drinks, play some golf, play some mini games. It's that social aspect they really want to tie into. I know for a fact they want to show the Six Nations now on the big screens there. So there's a lot that can be done with it.
Okay, well, you can tell the golfer in here. So I'm a middle handicap golfer, although my handicap's expired. Ken has tried a couple of times.
I've got,
Just
yeah,
been out
just
and,
about swinging them up the, yeah,
carved up the ground
unfortunately,
of
that's
it
about
a couple of
it.
times. So when Ken mentions, so apologies to any golfers out there when Ken mentioned going out for a few rounds. You don't tend to go for a round of golf. You generally have a round of golf and then join at the 19th hole for a pint or two afterwards. And so one of the main to the non-golfers out there, one of the main appeals for this is that it makes golf accessible, a bit like short formats of other sports. So in cricket, you've got the T20 or the 10 over format, which are kind of designed to add a little bit more speed and turnover. So where you've got, again, completely different sport, but with cricket, you've got test match cricket, which completes over 4 days, and you still can have a draw at the end of it, which baffles many many viewers outside of the UK. That's for the purists, for those who are really keen on the sport. And actually, it's a great day out to go and watch a test match because you get to have a load of drinks and the sport just continues in the background. It's not like watching a football match or a rugby match where you are it's an hour and a half of being fully engrossed in that sport and then it finishes and then you go back to the pub. So it brings, so cricket, like golf or like this form of golf, brings in the sporting aspect and the social aspect together. A bit like how when you go off on a stag weekend and you go and play mini golf, and you play mini golf whilst having a few drinks whilst you're going around it because it doesn't take itself too seriously. That's what we're kind of looking at here. But the beauty of this, as I see it, and kind of how we then need to get the balance in the web design, bringing it back to how we're actually going to market this company, is that it can, in the right approach, appeal to both markets. So whereas the supplier imagery will work really well for someone like myself who will want the course I play on will matter to me, whether it's Pebble Beach, whether it's St Andrews, or even as an idea we've had separately was actually building local golf courses using the simulation software, so you can actually sample the course that you're going to play tomorrow, which appeals to golf societies. Golf societies are essentially groups of predominantly, I'm generalizing here, middle-aged men who want to get away from the other half for the weekend, and they want to go and play usually two rounds of golf on two different courses in a area, and then hit the town for a few beers during that night. Go for a meal, go for a few drinks, socialize with a group. And that historically has been very popular. Of course, there's women's society groups and it's all mixed societies as well, but that's kind of how it started out and became popular. And I can imagine a society going to this venue, booking it out, or at least booking the simulator out for the evening, where they are going to be more serious about the golf they're going to play. So where they can't afford to play Augusta, the home of the Masters, because it costs probably 3 mortgages to play on that course, and it's member only as well. They can, on the simulator, test themselves, albeit in not a real environment, but the closest thing that they can get to. Because the biggest difference here is, without getting too nerdy with it, is there's a huge difference between using your own golf clubs and actually your own golf swing than using a VR alternative. So going back to when you mentioned you weren't sure if it's VR or AR, it's actually neither, because you're not wearing a headset to
No.
play it. So augmented reality is mixed reality. So
Yeah.
you'd be wearing a headset or a pair of glasses, and it will overlay like a heads-up display over top of what you're looking at. And VR would be everything is projected through the VR goggles. With this one, this is a classic simulator, which, albeit it may not be as immersive than if you had a really, really high quality with photo generated scenery. So as you look around, you are actually looking at that point in Augusta where you're about to play a shot, where you'd have the sound effects coming through the headset or in through earphones, so you feel more immersed with it. But the reality is, with this golf simulator, the shot is 1-to-1. It's not a case of like if you take an extreme example, Wii Golf, if you remember that one.
That was always a
Um,
bit dodgy, wasn't
Wii Golf was literally, and there I was doing a proper swing, warm up swing, hitting it, and then I was apparently hitting it, swinging too hard. And yet you can have a toddler come up and they just do that with their wrists, and they're out hitting me. Infuriating for
it?
someone who has spent way too much time, money on equipment to become a mediocre golfer who can hit a ball consistently 250 yards. And then you go into Wii Golf and then they're going off left, right, center. So with this, there is no I dare say there will be plenty of golfers who blame the tracking on there and saying, oh, the tracking's out today. But ultimately there's less to simplify with it. And so that brings its own challenge for beginners, because as a beginner, you will potentially go there and then go and fire up Pebble Beach golf course, and you find that it's taking you 10 shots to get past the first hole. Okay, you're not having to at least you're not having to walk from one destination to the other, because the
Mm.
mechanics of this is you swing, you hit the golf ball into the screen. The screen is soft, so it'll absorb the ball, and then the ball will drop to the ground, and then you just add another ball onto the mat or tee in front of you, depending on what shot you're playing, and then you play the next one. So the time in between shots is massively reduced, meaning you can get around a full 18 holes much, much quicker. So it's kind of combining going on a driving range where you're just hitting one after the other with the challenges and the different shots that you need to play on an actual course. And so it adds the gamification, it feels more real, and it feels more interesting for that as well. But you still have the problem as a beginner in terms of taking potentially 130 shots around Pebble Beach, which is going to take longer. Um, it's a bit like going 10 pin bowling, and instead of it scoring up at the end, you need to clear every pin on um, every single reset. So if you still keep missing that one pin, you're going up and you're reloading again every time, and that could be frustrating for the others playing with you if you're taking 8 more shots just to clear one pin because you can't reach it. That's the kind of the issue you have with golf. So that's where, bringing it back to what you're saying about the party games, for someone like yourself, you may prefer 5 or 6 different party games which aren't based on like taking as many shots until you get it down the hole, which is more based on in terms of accuracy of the shot or the power of a shot or the distance, where you are just looking at a leaderboard. So if you completely mess it up and you get 3 goes, you're not taking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to to get to a level where you complete the hole and can move on to the next one. Does that make sense? So so having those different variations, I think, is really important, but also how we now communicate it in the website is also really important as well. So your audience types will range from group of friends going out for a Saturday night and they want to do something different. The member in the group that always organizes to do the weird and wacky things, whether it's going to a themed pub in the middle of the city that's got 80s retro games
That's me.
as the central theme, and to saying, okay, and everyone else in the group, we're not going back there again, Ken. Let's find somewhere else to go, something a bit different. You can say, well, there's a golf simulator. It's got party games, so we can either do a round of golf, or actually there's going to be 10 of us, so the party games will be better because everyone has a go, but there's limited goes as well, and everything is just going to be a bit more casual. And if someone's really good at golf, they can still show off in party games. Like they can still be the best, but then there may be ways of handicapping um, on that. So to act as a leveler for those who are kind of clearly further on, or it could be that, yeah, you can mix it up. So that's probably as much as our audience will want to hear about golf simulators and golf today. But the one thing I would say, this is all really, really important to understand how to pitch a project because what I always say in web design, where it's gone now with website builders like Squarespace, is 80% of the work is done before we even start. It's it's all built behind the scenes. We're not having to use any code on the website, or any code we do is to add a bespoke enhanced feature to the website. That's not mandatory to making that website work. And in fact, too much code and you end up with a jumbled mess that's more likely to break and more likely to cause issues. So there's always that trade-off with that. So the most important aspect is having a clear understanding of our client's business, who their audience is. So one end of the spectrum, you've got your group of mates going out, or it could be a themed party like stag or hen weekend, um, bachelor party internationally. Or you've got to the other end then where you've got keen golfers. And of course, you've got, or you could have families, your mum, dad, and kids all play golf. So they can play around the golf together and have those arguments in that one place. Or you can have then groups of people who take their golf seriously, a society. And so you've got a wide audience. And the first thing I would think of when we land on that website is the homepage needs to be a signposting resource that appeals to all of those options. Hopefully, I haven't looked at the design you've done yet, but
Yeah.
hopefully it covers all of that. If not, we're going to look very silly.
Yeah.
But or the answer is that we pitch that to the client and they really resist that approach. But that's where it's our job to stand firm. And that's where it's really important to make sure that we are presenting our experience as professional designers, um, sharing a bit of our knowledge if we share it. Like in your case, you can relate to the Saturday night group of friends crowd, and you can say, okay, what would you be wanting to achieve? And that's always one of the advantages we've got is um, when you are one of the target demographics, it makes such a difference because you can then provide a little bit more clout in your response, a bit more pushback to say, yeah, if I was looking for this, which I think I am your target audience, I'd be looking for ABC. And to get that message across to the client, then to get them on board and to get full trust in you to be able to lead their project, which is, in this case, is a really important aspect of the business. Yes, they will do probably well initially off word of mouth and just for being something new. But ultimately, how they will get continued success in the future, the website will be front and center to that, whether it's people searching via Google, whether it's seeing flyers vouchers with a QR code and then they go to the website via that to find out more information or to make a booking, or social media driving. So you're building an audience on various social media platforms and then driving people to the website. So the concept we use regularly is think of all of your digital marketing as a solar system, with the website is the sun that sits in the middle. It's your digital hub that in most cases, what we're trying to do is funnel people from various outlets, whether they have a YouTube channel where they talk about the courses that they're going to cover on YouTube whilst playing them in the golf simulator in the environment where you've got kind of the bar in the background and it's got really nice settings so people can kind of make the connection to that would be great to go to. And then the call to action on there is if you're based locally, here's your booking page so you can reserve the simulator for your session. All of these things that we need to take into consideration. The good news is the more experience you get as a web designer, the easier it is to make these connections because they won't be the same, but they'll be very similar to other connections that you do in completely different industries. So the process I looked at is understand your audience, or understand your client first and what they do, understand their audience, and sometimes it's our job to explain the difference in terms of what our clients want and what their audience are going to want. Yes, we've got to please our clients, they're the ones paying the bills, but at the same time, the website isn't for our clients. It's not for Gareth at Drop Zone. Um, of course, it needs to tie in with his business culture and how they want to do things, and that's really important. But the moment we can get them to see it's not for them, it's for their target audience, makes a huge difference. Because that's then when we get full buy-in from everyone, all stakeholders in the project, to say, okay, we know the direction we're going, we know who we are appealing to, and then we can push on with that then as well. But I think we spoke a lot about this project without showing anything. Um, but that's all really important because the worst thing that someone can do as a designer is jump straight into the design process because they've got an idea of something creative.
I do my
And we've
worst
all
stuff when I
fallen in.
go straight into the web. If I go straight into Squarespace or straight into the web building and start doing it, I just go in circles. So that's why I have like that's why the chalkboards are so important, just to kind of map it out and go, oh, this could go here, this could go here, oh, this doesn't quite work. And then having those discussions alongside both you and Will in the studio, that's when you hash it out and actually ever think about it. I think that's where you get the best ideas as well going into it. So yeah, I never go straight into Squarespace to begin with because it just always ends in tears.
Yeah. And if you're on your own and you're building these projects and you just say, I don't have anyone with any design experience to bounce ideas off, we have a couple of communities over on SKOOL with a K, and I'll leave some information in the description because you can go over and check that out as well. Because I think we could offer that for something like $15 a month, where you can get instant feedback. We're adding a new feature where you can submit your design concept or a client brief to the community, and we can provide you ideas and feedback. And it won't just be ourselves at the Pixelates team, myself and Ken and Will. It will also be other members who maybe have been in a similar situation a couple of months ago and are able to provide that type of feedback. That's enough of a plug for our plug. There's a golf, Tim, for our community. I've delayed it enough. Let's have a look at the concepts you've done and let's rip these apart.
Brilliant.
But one thing I will say, though, was kind of bringing this up, is that you've already run this past the client and they're really happy with the progress.
Yeah, so we had a conversation. It was yesterday. It was, and it was pretty chuffed with the overall look and feel of it. I think I was being a bit harsh on myself in the call, just be like, what do we want to show first? Is the actual simulators, is the social aspect? But ultimately, we decided it was going to be the simulator because that's the biggest pull to this. But I'll just share my screen now. So can you see that all okay?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Brilliant.
that's coming up on here now.
Fantastic. So the Drop Zone Golf branding they had that done a few months ago. For, I think it was a friend of a friend doing the actual logo itself. They said, here's the initial logo. Now we're not too precious about this. You can change the colors, you can change this and that about, you can change fonts. But actually, as I went through and started designing this, I actually found the colors worked really well and tied in quite nicely with the golf theme, so to speak. The concepts behind this was that we wanted to show the simulator first and foremost, show it how it all works, and we needed to display that straight away to anyone joining the site. What on earth is a golf simulator? Like who is it for? What does it do? So what I did is that rather than just having square image of the bloke going for a swing there using the simulator, I wanted to add a little bit of depth as the reality and the simulator kind of working hand in hand, like how do they work together. So I created a cutout of our man here inside of Photoshop, and then I applied a bit of almost like a grass. When you see golf courses from above, you usually see the course. You usually see the grass with the rough and the lovely cut lawns with going from the lighter greens to the dark greens. And I wanted to show that off it in the site and tie it.
We just lost our golfers again.
Yeah, no, sorry.
You got the rough. Got the rough right. Yeah, you were talking about the differences between, say, the rough, the fairway.
Thank you.
Greens, fringe of the greens, so where they, and like I think for most courses will have striped effects on the fairways, etc. as well. And so yeah, it's quite obvious you've got the kind of the edge of the rough there kind of feeding into it, which is nice.
I tied in the grass textures along that you can only see it subtly, but you've got a bit of a rough outline of this wave along with a grass texture, which I applied subtly there. The idea is that it ties into the branding. It's all part of the golf, and we wanted to have a main opening message. Now, this is probably this might change a little bit further down the line. We might actually change the positioning of this of the section on the site. But one of the biggest pulls of this is that anyone you can go and play on any of the courses in the world. So you can load these up. They've all been pre-made inside of the Foresight simulators, and you can go up to them, load up any single one. And if you want to go in the more premium golf course, then you can pay a little bit extra to go on those. But it's the fact you're there, load up, and you can just start playing there. And then there's no, you don't need to go in your buggy, your golf cart, and go to all 18 holes. You know, it's all pre-built in there. Now,
It's golf for lazy people, one way of saying it. Or for those who just want to work on the swing and don't really want to work on their walking in between shots. But also, one of the key advantages with this is, and the one thing I don't think we covered actually, which is just coming to my head, that could be it could be an individual campaign going forward, but it's golf any time of the day. Because if you you can go to a driving range and they've got floodlights and you can play at night, but how many environments can you play a golf course at night? It's impossible in obviously any of the courses that are in the simulator. So therefore, having a 24/7 golf course that doesn't rely on weather, it's not an issue of like the usual things that, again, our society members and our society group will be grumbling. Like they could be on a society in February, March, and the weather is atrocious and the courses could be closed. And there's no way of knowing until the morning that they're due to play the round. So imagine if that golf course is closed, then they've got a backup option here. So instead of doing nothing or going home, they can jump on a golf simulator and have a round of golf on there. Or probably you can have 3 rounds of golf on the simulator in the time frame that it would take to play 1 round of golf on a normal kind of par 72 18-hole golf course. So having this as an option, and I think that's another selling point as well. Golf when and where you need it.
Yeah. I also found, like, when I was speaking to the boys there, other people like who like to go up the golf courses and say I've had a bad back and can't actually travel and walk all that distance. They love the idea of this because it means that they can, like, even people can come there for when they go for rehab to help them get back on their feet and play golf again. This becomes a much easier option to get back in there and improve their swing, and so they can deal with the pain from it. So it's a lot of
the rehab point's another big one with a potentially large market, because instead of speaking to the direct end users, we could have a landing page specifically for healthcare professionals in terms of, why don't you integrate our facilities into the rehab of your clients? If they already play golf, the reality is they're probably doing rehab or working with a physio or chiropractor to get back to playing golf. That's not to get to play in the Masters or to be to make the Ryder Cup team. It's to just get back playing golf on a weekend without being in severe chronic pain. And we've got experience of this because we work closely with a healthcare company, Back to Roots. And one of the angles I've spoken to regularly, I'm one of the directors of that company as well. And the one thing we look at is, okay, our main message is getting back to doing the things you love doing. So, and that the yardstick is different for every single patient going through the process. So that's a whole other avenue that, like, we don't have the resources within this project to do a landing page for every single audience. This is why a website, when it goes live, is never finished. That's not just to get people come back to web designers like us so we can get more money. It's just generally you weigh up kind of the opportunity versus the cost of outlay. And the beauty of it is, once you've built the rest of the website, creating a landing page that speaks to an individual audience becomes easier each time we do it, because we end up with an overall structure that generally works. And over and above that, it becomes cheaper for someone to set it up for us. Or again, if you join our communities, we'll show you how to set it up for $15 a month. And so all of that is just combined, meaning that the website going live is just a starting point, the launch pad of which you then bring in other elements, other features as well. And yeah, I think that gives us a good idea of in terms of the areas and the directions that we can go with this content. The challenge is finding the right one to start with. And the reality is you probably won't have the right message when you first put the website live. But it's okay because as web designers, we can feed that back and we can say based on what we know now, this is the campaign that we need to run. And that key headline message in the hero section may or may not be the right message to lead with here.
Yeah.
Because what we don't know yet is what percentage breakdown is it going to be for societies versus friends on a Saturday night out.
This
If it's
definitely
friends,
speaks more to the societies at the moment, doesn't it? Rather than
I
the
think so.
night out
I
break.
see that's why you brought the icon
Mm,
set in. It shows it's golf. Okay.
yeah.
I know we've got that in the shot anyway, but in case anyone was unsure. Um, you've got the social beer aspect. So
Yep.
golf and beer, great. You know, that's me signed up. And then you've got the third one, which I'm assuming is sending the message of you hit and reload. Hit reload
Yeah,
again.
so the idea is just like, right, let's just keep going. That one's probably the unclearest there. So I think we need to change this a bit about
It's clear to me, it's just whether
yeah.
it's clear to you,
Mm.
the Saturday night crowd.
So that's where it
Um,
might be the mesh might be a little bit confusing, but it's more idea you can just like you don't hit it, you're like right, okay, now we have to go to get the
hmm.
buggies, go over there. So it's just like the fact you can just keep going, almost like you're in the driving range itself.
Have you thought
Uh,
of a tooltip idea concept for each of those? When you roll over them, it gives a little bit more information before any scrolling.
so in the case of if you would come over here, it said social, and then it goes into we have an
Yeah.
bar 20 feet from the drive. I say the drive, the
When
simulator.
when beer and golf safely mix, for
Yeah.
example, that's because obviously if you have a skinful of beer on a golf course,
Mm,
it's not just the safety of people around you when you're swinging a club. It's kind of the direction that you're hitting the ball
yeah.
and whether you're alert enough and can still see more than 100 yards to be able to shout four if it goes off in a direction and potentially endanger someone.
It's not quite
There's
like darts,
insurance
is it?
issue. Yeah, there's insurance issues. There's so much that could go wrong
Mm,
with it. Yes, I'm not saying that a golf simulator is 100% safe. If someone decided that they wanted to swing it around like a lightsaber, then that's going to be a safety issue, and that's where there'll probably be some sort of waiver or documentation that they sign
yeah.
about kind of making like whether they need to technically play the round before they have any drinks or however the company manages that. But it's a lot safer because the ball's been hit in one direction than when and there's only one ball being hit at a time. Whilst if you went out and drank a load of beer and played golf, even as a group of four, which is usually the usual size group that you go out and play around a golf with, you could be 100 yards in front of the person behind you. And so that brings you into danger, and obviously being
Mm,
alert and sober really, really helps with that aspect. If you take a buggy, you can't be drinking and driving a golf buggy. It
yeah.
will almost certainly be against the club rules, if it's not illegal to drive a golf buggy drinking. I'm not sure. We won't get into that one. But ultimately, you've got the safety aspect, but the hit reload hit is quite a nice twist on that wording as well. So
Yeah, these
um,
were so these
mm,
icons were made. I did these in Illustrator myself. So we didn't we so I was playing around with like, do we get some assets from a stock library? But I was like, you know what, let's make our own here because I don't think I'd be able to get a set that will look exactly the same. They were inspired by the Wii Sports. We go back to Wii Sports, the
mm,
Wii Sports icons that are for. So you have one of those at the start of each game. I just felt that tied in very nicely with this. The idea was that I've used the green, so there's a light green here sparingly as our call to action. So the idea is we've used quite a dark background throughout the site, and using that
mm,
light green just draws your eye to it. So the idea is we want to have our main call to action being book a booth. We want people in. We want people to play on our simulators. We need money. So the idea is that these buttons are all in that light green because you're drawn to it as you go through the site. Same as the icons. You're right. So if you so I've used these later down the page in different sections. So I've used the beer icon next to social aspects, and it kind of it makes sense as we go through.
mm.
But it's just a clever way of just drawing the user's eye throughout the site.
Yeah. So I just before we jump on to the next bit,
Mhm.
we constantly preach about the 60-30-10 rule in design. It actually came from interior design and and it's been kind of slowly brought over into web design and graphic design as well. And if we look at it's not an exact science. We don't cover it exactly, and there are certain instances where we don't need to cover that rule. But if we look at this, 60% of the screen is made up of the canvas. So that in this case is actually three very similar but different tones to reflect the kind of the dark behind the text to make sure the text really pops out for that heading. We've got a slightly lighter muted tone then to go behind the logo to make sure that we're not losing the logo. And then we've got the detail then with the rough texture in dividing the two. So we've got kind of our rough fringe fairway, but that covers the 60%. The 30% then is the photo. And okay, that's many different colors, but that's the area that we're instantly drawn to. And then when we look at our principles of design, we use when we talk about design hierarchy, our terminology for that is spotlight. It's only one star of the show. The star of the show here is the amateur golfer on the simulator. Maybe he's a pro. I'd call it. I might get
you have to tell me
a vicious email coming through, just suing me. But we've got our golfer here hitting it into the screen. So there's a tech demo going on here as well. We could even look at video backdrop for this section, which provides more of a technical problem and a load speed issue as well. And we'll come on to that afterwards. But essentially, that's covering the 30%. And again, it's not an exact science. And then the 10% in this example is a combination of our action color. So the color we use for call to actions, the light lime green, and the white for the text. Those two areas contrast each other really nicely, or complement each other really nicely, should I say. And they really jump out from the backdrop. But here's the clever bit, and I'm assuming you planned this 100%, is you've got the text in white, and you are drawn to the other speck of white in the photo, the golf ball. So I know that was 100% your idea when you originally planned it. So we're bringing in consistency with that. The only thing is, it's a shame that the golf shoes are white, because I think if you were to change the colors of the golf shoes, it would draw even more focus to those elements. But that's
a bit of a Photoshop job.
Yeah, but that's partly me being too fussy, I think, as well. I think it does a really nice balanced job of telling a story. The one thing we don't know yet is whether that's the right story for our initial landing page on our homepage. However, there is a workaround for that. We can create individual landing pages for each audience. So when you have a QR code on beer mats in a pub, for example, or in a golf club, beer mats, and in kind of all the local golf clubs around there. So these guys could pay to have beer mats put in there amongst the brewery ones. Or they could do a guerrilla campaign where they go and stick the QR codes to existing beer mats. Just don't tell the brewery you're doing that. And so when members come in after their round of golf and they're miserable because it's been raining all day, traditional Welsh weather, and they're just like, I'm fed up to this. I don't want to dissolve next weekend because the rain forecast is going to be driving rain for the next 3 or 4 weeks. They then see this, they go to the QR code, but instead of that QR code that goes in a golf club would take them to the society-led page for golfers, whilst the QR code that you put in a inner city pub or bar, or club would be aimed at, or a student pub, for example, student bar. You could put a different QR code aimed at young groups of young, or relatively young in your case, Ken, adults wanting to do something different for a night out. Those landing pages then for the group of Ken friends would be party games probably, and a chance of having a go at golf. That's not as boring as a driving range where you're just doing the same thing over and over again. Beers with it, so you get drinks, and maybe even then kind of bulk discounts, so buy 4 get 1 free or whatever, or happy hour deals as well to entice your crowd in there. That landing page would be very, very different to the Golf Society one, which is all about golf anytime, any weather. Play on the best courses in the world without having to pay for the best courses in the world. There's so many options that you
that's like, to me, that wouldn't mean as much as the social aspects here, because it would just kind of go over my head,
Yeah, if I would say you're going to play at Sawgrass, you'd be like, great.
Yeah,
With
right
that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, like I suppose the Celtic Manor might appeal to you because you'd of that, and
Yeah. No
the
of
Ryder
it.
Cup,
Yeah.
but
Like
you
local
wouldn't
ones.
back yourself or wouldn't
No.
want to spend the money that needed to play on the Celtic Manor, which was a Ryder Cup course, and play on that 2010 course without being at least half decent at golf.
Mm.
So therefore, the golf courses really don't matter to you. It's about the social experience. Whilst to someone who is even a high handicap golfer who's been playing for a few years, um, the choice of different courses without them, because the reality of playing on any of these top level courses is it can be a miserable existence going around if you're quite competitive, because you got in your head that you're going to go around and in under 100 shots and you come out with 125 just because the courses are set up so difficult. They're long, they're rough. You lose balls constantly in the rough. Um, and so this actually simulator experience is going to be less, it's going to penalize them less than the real world counterpart. So
Mm.
that's another angle that you can get in terms of play the best courses in the world without the reality hitting you that you're going to spend 45 minutes looking for golf balls that cost you £1.50 each, um, and you can't find any of them, or they're going in the water. It's just like that's what the beauty again, going back to hit, reload, hit. That's the thing. Anyway, I think
I'll
without
show you
going back
one
too much
before
into the
we
Hmm.
before we scroll down. I'll show you one last little thing because I'm quite chuffed with this one, even though
Hmm.
I didn't make it.
Go on
So
then.
speaking about external code, so putting our own plugins into here. There is one that Will, I asked Will very nicely to make one for me, and all it is very simple. When you hover over the menu, a little golf ball appears. I was
Didn't
just
I
like,
do that in a template?
yeah, you could well have, or maybe you did it then, but
Yeah.
I just a little
Gonna
way
let
of
Will take the
tying
credit for
the
something I
overall
did a couple of
theme.
years ago. Yeah. So we actually built a golf court club template, and it's available on our Pixel A's Academy store. We're called Ridge Valley Golf Club, which is a fictional golf club, and we use stock photos and content around it. But that was one of the plugins that we included within the template, which was just changing the underline effect, which is you can't actually change that in Squarespace. The default option is basically it's just got an
Mm.
underline on hover and selected, I think, or maybe even just on selected, or the page that you're on essentially will have an underline, and the rest I think it just goes bold or just highlights it a tiny bit. So the golf ball one is such a small little feature, but again, it ties in because it's pretty obvious even to those looking at the social aspect that it ties it back into golf, which is a nice little feature. You get brownie points for that one. Yeah, so if we
Brilliant.
scroll down now through.
Yeah. So one thing I want to do in the version 2 of this is just have these photos. There are photos just at the bottom here. You can see them kind of invading the main uh,
Hmm.
hero unit. And the idea is that I want to show these photos just about peering up so that you can see there's an image and it encourages people then to
Hmm.
continue scrolling for the site. So just by having a little bit of something there, so I don't think it's quite as obvious as I want it to be yet, but the idea is that you see it and you encourage you to scroll down into here. Now, these
I'll
images
jump in
again,
on that in a second. Carry on there.
yeah. So the idea here is that we have our main free target audiences in here. Now, upon reflection, I feel we need these two are probably too much of the professional shots. I think we should have one for like this photo works quite well, but again I think we should have a group of golfers enjoying themselves, so showing that more social aspect to it. These images are predominantly stock because we don't have any
Hmm.
images of the actual venue as of yet. You can tell this is very, very American, so that will not fit inside of here. But it's more to show that social aspect, people enjoy themselves while using the game. So the idea is you take your audiences who will be viewing the site and trying to put them into the right category, so go into the right landing pages from here. As I scroll down, I'm quite happy with this one. This is actually a. I'll let you take the reins here, Alwyn, because I know.
No, 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 no. 19th hole, nice like, nod to those who know more about it. But ultimately, I think that's even obvious what the 19th hole is um, to someone who's new to this as well. But closer than
You were quite
24.
happy with that one, weren't you?
That's a really, really catchy Catchy heading. Well done with that one. Oh, did I do it? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Um,
you put it in a say, and I was like, right, I'm gonna use that.
that's an
And I
AI generated image.
Yeah, so again, we don't have the images to use, so I want to try and get I tried getting there's a few different variations of this to have the actual golf ball next to it, but then it ended up kept putting the ball in the pint which I actually thought looked better. So
Yeah,
it's to bring that social aspect into this, show that there's a working bar there, show they have these
yeah,
cocktails, these drinks inside
yeah.
of it. So rather
I
than
think a nice addition here would be a just kind of 10-minute job on Photoshop where you just put the drop zone branding on that pint glass.
that,
Um,
nice,
it
yeah,
just brings in that branding
yeah,
again for it as well. The glass does for a pint glass, it looks a little short, but I know you can get those kind of shorter
mm.
with a wider kind of angle glasses. And I
Pub goers might have a thing to say
probably just
about
me
that.
being fussy.
Yeah,
Most people wouldn't see that. The other benefit of have that being a bit shorter is that we're not taking any more retail space for that banner for that secondary hero. So what we call about this is we got the hero at the top, which is
mm.
our main banner. Like an inner city billboard, we've got 3 seconds at most to get our message across. This is a secondary hero within the website, and it's become a feature that's become quite popular in the last couple of years, with good reason, because I think as you scroll through, it just creates that magazine style layout,
Yeah.
the layout of the text, which you can do really easily within Squarespace, using the expand text to fill frame option. Um, it used to be we had to do that with either a graphic or a lot of custom code, which was
Mm.
just messy. But now that's a feature within the Squarespace Fluid Engine, and yeah, that's all looking really nice. I think not much to say about that. Maybe a little bit of white space issue there with the enjoy around
Yeah, I
is
can see
slightly
there's
too close to the
a
line.
bit of padding here. Might to just bring that in
Mm,
ever so slightly. But the
yeah.
idea of these more image driven sections is that we're trying to target the individual target audiences inside
Mm,
of who would be interested in this. So we're trying to like funnel them into the correct landing pages
mm,
again.
mm.
Scrolling down from there. So again, I've used a lovely cutout, but almost at the rolling hills that you get in the traditional golf course. Um, one thing they wanted a feature they wanted to introduce was upcoming events. So you might have some tour championships, you might have a small event. So I mentioned at the start about them wanting to just have, they just want to show the Six Nations and have a drink and enjoy it. So it doesn't necessarily have to all tie into the golf, but just to
Mm.
show these events coming on, so they can see that this place is busy. They can see what events coming on, and they can book and go there for a larger event. But
Yeah,
the
you
only
could definitely do theme things though. You could do your own Ryder Cup
yeah
where you have two teams play against each other from neighboring towns, for example. And so you do like a localized Ryder Cup, and then you actually show the Ryder Cup games then. So you could get there from 8 a.m. in the morning. You play the Ryder Cup between two teams.
yeah
Of course, you get through, and you can actually simulate and play it on the same course that the Ryder Cup is held on in that year, which I think is a really nice kind of tie into it. And you then actually two local golf clubs. So one club will play against the other one, or you
mm-hmm.
could play international, like in our case, like an English club would come on tour to a Welsh club, and they would play in the simulator on the course that the Ryder Cup's held. What I love about this project, and I know you've kind of had the same, you really enjoyed this one, is there's so much potential to run campaigns. Even once the website's live, it's not the end, as I mentioned earlier. There's so much stuff that we can do with this to make it really interactive and really, and just a lot of fun, really, in terms of the project and the selling of it. But that's using the Squarespace summary block where we're feeding through from the calendar through to the homepage. So that structure is all pretty standardized.
yeah
One thing we could look at is maybe taking that event calendar, which is the stock default version of it, where we've got the box in the top right hand corner. It looks nice, but is there a way again we can just put a tiny bit of custom code to tie it into
yeah
the drop zone theme as well? I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that's something that's where we thrash it out in the studio, and that's why we're building the community to kind of expand this option for other designers. So you're not alone if you're a freelancer going through these projects. You can just tap into the ideas that we have as well. And
yeah
yeah, so
yeah
that's looking nice.
Yeah, the only other element of added in there, just to again just build out from the brand, is the rings from the drop zone. So in
Mm,
the initial logo at the top, they've used use these rings and the actual flag icon in there. And so I just wanted to subtly bring that in. So all I did is I actually rebuilt the logo inside of Illustrator, created those rings, and then just put a opacity on them ever so slightly. So just so it's not just a plain bland block. We just tie in that brand just like by bringing these smaller elements. They almost look it's the actual drop zone where the ball lands, and also looks a bit like swinging of the golf club.
Nice one. Yep.
Scroll down from there then.
Through. So we got
this is
signposting here. So clear signposting off to 2 different areas, an additional service option.
So this is more to do with the actual pro golfers, people who are there to improve their swing and want to get more kit for themselves. So I was going to do one section, but I thought, you know what, we'll show the 2 together. Again, bringing these icons in, show you on that specific section. The idea is that this all speaks to that audience itself. There's plenty of photography of the analytical side, so you can see that on site you will actually some of the boys, they will actually be providing training. So if people want to come there and improve their swing, then the boys there will actually, you can book a session alongside them, and they will run you through all these analytics. So you'll be able to do your swing, and then they take then the analytics from your swing. Right, how can we improve this? And they have it live on screen, so as you can see here.
Yeah, and one thing I just noticed here, it's a decision to make. It's not wrong. It just depends on which audience is prioritized, because golfers will know that it's called the Pro Shop, whilst you put Golf Shop. So again, it depends on who are they going to sell to, who are they likely to sell most to? Because if it's to your audience, Golf Shop sounds
more merchandise,
closer to what you want, or merchandise is another approach. Or would Pro Shop alienate you? And that's something that you can provide feedback to the client. So it's not necessarily wrong. So is it training or coaching? That's the other thing as well. So is it analytics and coaching, or feedback and coaching, or training? So these are language, like terminology, that we probably won't get these all right when we first put the site live, but that we fine tune them over time based on looking at the website analytics, looking at are people clicking through as much as they should? Are these even like, where should these sections be? They look like secondary objectives because we want to get people to the venue first, but then knowing that there's a training option or coaching option, knowing that there's a golf shop, Pro Shop. Golf shop sounds wrong to me. Pro Shop for that as well. One thing that's really nice here is you haven't overdone the text, although we could even maybe look to trim it back a little bit and make the paragraph text a little bit bigger. Maybe a paragraph 1 size in Squarespace as opposed to paragraph 2. And the book a session and the visit the shop, not only are those call to actions on brand because they're using the action color, they're also using the rounded corners again for the rounded edges or the lozenges, like the golf ball as well. It's almost like the golf ball's been stretched. But mainly is you haven't just got read more in those buttons, and that's a bugbear that I have now. The call to actions are specific to that section, and it's one of the schoolboy mistakes that a lot of new designers will make, is they will just have read more on each of those links. It's fine for a blog post because like each post will be different. It's impossible to have individual click through call to action default in Squarespace. But when we're creating signposting like this, it's another opportunity to get our copy in to make sure our language is communicating with the target audience. Great. So yeah, we've only got about 5 to 10 minutes left now. So if we just,
I think we're nearing the end now. So I'll just quickly run through this part. So this again was to tie in with the same audience of your pro golfers, but actually taking a look into the courses available. Now there's they have a number of different courses, but they like the idea of having just a little bit of a background behind each one. So God, I don't know any of these courses, I'm afraid, but you'd have Stone Creek here, and I've actually created custom thumbnails. I think I did part of this in Illustrator, part of it in Canva actually. So this is a very quick job. But the idea is just to have custom thumbnails that so it's not just a blank image of the shot. It ties it all together. And what they can do is they can click on these courses and actually see all the images that they've been given about these courses. They can have a bit of a preview beforehand just to see how it works, and they can have statistics, other people's runs of the rounds, that sort of thing, what they can expect before go is they can go, oh, you know what, I actually really want to play on Panther Creek when we go there, so they can see what's available in there.
Hmm.
Um, there's only 3 at the moment in here, but the idea is I'm going to put every single one in it, so you'll be able to flick through these in an ongoing summary block, or
Yeah.
even view courses and have them all in a list format, so they can see them, and we can
Yeah, and
cherry
that's
pick
one thing where you can get
favorites.
feedback from the client in terms of what they think are the
Mm.
favorites. So the ones I would say are the most popular locally would be the 2010 course at Celtic Manor, if you can get it.
Yeah.
St Andrews, the home of golf. Then you're looking at maybe like Whistling Straits, Sawgrass, TP Sawgrass, Pebble Beach, California. There's loads of like those options that where major events are held regularly. I've heard of I these aren't as well known as the ones I was talking about. The other thing as well is you could often we always look to try and find research in other areas as well, because this is kind of an alternative route, but with a similar audience and a similar theme to say VR golf. The best VR golf game and setup around at the moment is Golf Plus with the plus symbol. So it would be
Mm.
well worth having a look at that website for inspiration about how they use their thumbnails on there. Of course, we're going to steal, not copy. And steal is where you get inspiration from an idea. Great artist steal. You make it your own, and then you've got your own take on that
Yeah.
idea. Copying is where you go and you just say, I'm going to copy that theme. We never copy. A, because we're not doing ourselves justice as designers, and B, we're not we could get a client into trouble for it, and C, it's just not a good thing to do anyway.
Yeah.
So
It's not fun either.
um, no, and it's not much fun. You don't become a designer to copy someone else's designs. You go there to create your own creatives. And even though like individual elements of this design will be found on other websites around well, it's how it's assembled and how it all ties in and remains on brand is what makes it wholly unique. Yeah, that's looking quite nice. And
Just a quick look through now. So these reviews are from a different sites. These are placeholder reviews in here.
yeah,
Again, I've actually made a
that's off
whole
our
version
Sphere Forge,
of
is it?
yes, this one
Yeah.
from the Sport. Yeah, so
Mm,
this was
yeah.
one of your sections that I installed into here, and then but I've tweaked it to match the branding of the site. So I've added in its own divider in here
Yeah.
with the rough, and I've actually taken their logo, made a full version of it. So
Mm,
you just chopped in half of the text on the left hand side, but I've made a full version of this to use as a bit of an icon,
yeah.
just as an accent to complement the review in there. And I've actually used that same icon then in the fav as a fav icon.
Mm.
So it works quite nice because I tried using the full logo and it was just you couldn't read it at that scale. And I thought, you know what, this works quite nicely as just continuing from it. So I
Yeah.
haven't
And change your
changed the
subdomains as
branding.
well. That's
Oh
a
yeah,
black mark.
sorry.
One of the things, if you just highlight it, just highlight that section of the domain name. We're going to make a point of this now. Um, One thing that we've got in our processes that Ken follows in every other project apart from this one, apparently, is one of the first things we do when we create a new site is we change that subdomain. One is it looks more professional when we demo it to the client, where it would be like the dropzonegolf.squarespace.com. This won't be the live domain. It's not the most important aspect, but it's a nice little detail. And you can go into this in settings and domains, and you've got the built-in domain name, which you get free within your subscription. But we always recommend buying a separate domain name, either within Squarespace or via another registrar to link to it. So that's something that Ken will be doing after this call now to put that in to make
No,
sure
no
it's
problem, mate.
compliant.
Sorry.
Yeah. So if we scroll down then, so the fairway meets the fairground. I like that
Yeah,
heading.
that's one of mine. I thought
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if
I
I
don't think it was mine. Yeah, so
yeah, that was one of
they're
mine.
actually having these machines there as well, are they? In addition to
Yes,
the
so these the
oh, great.
actual machine. So that to the bottom right there is an actual view of inside the menu, so to speak, and you'll be able to click on the different games there. So you've got like a shooting range, you've got darts, bowling, all these sort of
Mm,
things. But this is a view of what one of the games would look like. Uh,
yeah.
the images were great that I got, so I put this into Photoshop, expanded it because I think it was a portrait image just taken on a phone, but I wanted to add a bit more depth to it. So that's why I took the screen, the inside of the screen, and cut it out so that it could escape
Mm.
the rough. contacts I have on the site itself.
Yeah.
But again, these larger images are the larger image sections are intended to target specific audiences who would stumble onto this site and put them in
Yeah.
the right direction.
Yeah. So that would appeal less to me, but if you could have a go on that whilst you're waiting your turn on the simulator, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, yeah, and then are we getting
And
to the footer now, is it?
finally, then this is the footer. I might want to change this map ever so slightly, but the idea is that people, same as the header, people are trained to go to the top to look at different pages on the site. People are typically trained to go to the bottom to find useful information such as email addresses, phone numbers, where is this based, that sort of thing. So what we're going to look at is installing their Instagram, which is going to be set up shortly. So we want to start creating a number of different social media. We're going to set up a social media campaign now up until the launch of the business. But we have the main thing they wanted to show is the actual location. How do I get in? How do I play it? So we installed the interactive map here. What I'd like to do is add the actual notes to this and maybe turn it into the white and blue version, so you can sort of see where local rivers are. Because I always find that quite useful when I'm looking at these maps, especially like the River Wye back in Wales. You can see where it is relevant to that. But it's simple footer. It's not going to win any awards, but it does the job.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if there is a low-cost way of making that map more interactive or something like that, that would be great. Or changing the pin to
I think there's
a
even just a
golf,
switch.
a golf ball on a golf tee.
Yeah.
That would
Or
be
the little
really
flag.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the pin, yeah, the flag.
Yeah.
And then if we put, yeah, so oh yeah, we've got the flag in the logo, and so that would be really nice to put that in as well. I know that there is a plugin that will do that. It's
Oh,
built
cool.
for
I didn't know about that.
multiple pointers, and I'm actually going through the process. It's next up on my tutorials that I'm creating on our website builders channel for Square websites plugins. And that team to create, I think, the most advanced Squarespace plugins you can get. They really get under the hood of the Squarespace platform. And one of those is a map option where you can create your own customized icons for the map, but also you can show multiple locations. Now, although this is only going to be one location in Trilinga at the moment, it opens up the option if they ever want to launch a second venue somewhere else, they can do that. But also just for the cost of that one plugin, the client may want to pay that just to have it more branded within it. And we can see if we can actually get it for them without them. So under our license, so that they don't have to pay and we pay the license as a designer. And over the course of the website that we're going to use that customized map feature for, it would really help. I haven't had a chance to play with it in detail yet, but that's something that to watch this space. If you see a customized icon in there, you'll know where that plugin came from. And again, we'll try and leave some links in the description as well, so you can find out. But if you go to Pixelates Academy, we are reselling all of the Square Websites plugins through our Academy store anyway. Yeah, so I think that brings us to a nice kind of conclusion point. If we just scroll, if it's okay, just to scroll back up to the top. Just that second section, there were a couple of points.
This one here.
Signposting again. If you just scroll up a tiny bit more. No, yeah, it was definitely that signposting section there. So again, I think that's probably the main area that I would look at. And I think it's
I think
I like the text overlay in the images. That works nicely. The images are inviting. It's really jarring to see a lefty playing golf, but
Our guys have noticed that.
It's important to be inclusive as well. So I suppose trumps it. I don't know about the beginners one because I think that that particular shot is what you would find in a pro shop, like somewhere like American Golf, where you go there, they fit you out with your own clubs and set you up for it. I know there's a pro shop option here, but I don't know how heavily manned it is, what type of services they provide for golf fittings, etc. for it. But the way that's a beginner, someone who's going to go out tomorrow and play on a proper course.
Yeah.
And they're just getting there, kind of getting the golf lessons for getting their swing right. The club golf, again, that he looks more serious. Looks like a low handicap golfer just by the kind of his stance and the swing posture. And the parties and events looks very frat party, doesn't it? And
Yeah, it's a bit too, yeah, it looks a
so
bit
I think these three photos
alien.
will be tweaked over time as you get better photos, but definitely the beginners and the club golf. I think club golf, I would change it to societies and golf members or golf members
Okay.
or golf club members, maybe. So yeah, and it needs to potentially reflect someone who is a mid-handicap player, someone who's a good golfer, but doesn't necessarily fit the physique of a professional golfer. Because that you could say that he's a professional golfer, and I would believe it, even being
Yeah.
a lefty. And like you, if you take the profiles of people who play in normal golf clubs, they usually got dad bodies. You know, they're like they're not athletes. And whether that's a better approach, medium to long term, to make it more kind of appealing to that audience. If someone taking their golf really, really seriously, they probably go to a golf simulator in the off
Yeah.
season and get. They might even have one at home, um, because they take it that seriously. So again, it's who and this is the conversation you have with the client. Especially, I'm assuming they're coming from a golf background, so they will have a clearer idea than I could coming into this. But that would be the one thing I'd question it. Does that do those three images reflect the mood,
Yeah.
the theme of it, which is really difficult to do at the moment because we don't have the photos of the venue and everything comes back to that. So it could well be that they are good enough to go with, and then as soon as we've got the real photo shoot coming in, that's when we switch to those, and that's where the website can really sell. And I think we'll just we'll just wrap it up at that point, I think. Thanks for bringing this, and thanks to Gareth and the team at Dropzone for allowing us to use this as an example. Hopefully, we've given them some tips and some ideas of how they can not just help to sign us off the website nice and smoothly, but also what we can do in future as well, and what they can do with the website. The beauty of website builders like Squarespace is not every upgrade or addition, in fact, none of them are tied to us as a team. Of course, we want our clients to come back to us and to stay with us, but we enjoy the fact that we build on a platform that they can pick it up and run with it themselves. Add new landing pages. If they've got other designers they work with closely, they can work on a framework that's tried and tested using our website blueprint process. And yeah, everything just fits in quicker. When my old agency, it was a case of I knew that clients were tied to us, whether we wanted them or whether they wanted us or not. And that even that adds a little bit more pressure to the relationship. But I think this would be something that would be you could go live today as long as there's no like change the testimonials to real testimonials, for example, and a couple of other tweaks. The other thing we haven't looked at is mobile view today,
Yeah.
but
We won't show that just yet.
we won't have time to cover it, and Ken hasn't had a chance to test that yet.
Yeah.
So we got through the whole call without me mentioning that. And so that's the other thing as well is design for mobile whilst you're designing on desktop, and it makes it a bit of a pain, but when we're pitching this to a client, we would show them the desktop view and the mobile view and what we're prioritizing on mobile view as well, how we're restructuring it, and we talk through it as well. The other thing we haven't spoke about really is the menu structure, but again, there's only so much that we can cover in one session. This just shows you this would be on our kind of mid to high price point for projects because of the extra detail that would go into it. This website is going to be very important to the success, the future success of this company. So therefore, that's why we charge in that higher price bracket, not because the design process itself takes longer, but because the conversations and the selection of the right content and the right messages is all the more important than if it's, for example, in a local accountancy firm where they get most of their customers returning through doing a good job, and most of their new customers coming through word of mouth, and the website is just an online brochure and business card that they have because they need to be seen to have on a website. With this type of project, the website needs to drive new customers or convert new customers for them. And so that's why we end up spending a lot more time in-house talking about these projects. That's why we spend a lot more time thrashing things out with the clients to get these just right. Hope you've enjoyed this session. Hope you've had some tips and things that maybe you hadn't thought about in web design. I've been doing this for 20 years. Ken's been doing this for 5 years professionally. And so like that combined knowledge means that if you wouldn't have thought of many or any of these as a starting point, don't panic. It's all about having these conversations on a regular basis And the more websites you build, the better you get at it, the more you can see, and just to make sure we're not making mistakes. And the one final takeaway point is we're all, most of the time we're not building award-winning design. What we're doing is building design, website designs that will convert for our customer. And that means a website that speaks to their audience. If they want it clean, plain, fast loading, that's far more important than pushing the envelope so much that we create a really creative website that takes an extra 3 seconds to load and we lose half of our visitors. I know that sounds obvious, but it's the one thing that we always should always have in the back of our mind in terms of who the audience are and what's going to be their priority. And I think with a few tweaks and adjustments, I think Ken's got this one pretty close already. And we're only probably 30-40% into the project. Um, don't tell me you're 90%, hopefully. But no, we're like the last interaction with the client was to show them the first set of designs. And so even though it's not kind of rip things up and start again, there will be that natural refinement as we go through the project upon completion. And then obviously bringing in photography from the venue will make a huge difference to this one as well. Hope you've enjoyed. Information about what we discussed will be in the description. We're running these sessions once a week. It does depend on when we do it during the week, simply because of our day jobs. But hope you've enjoyed, and we'll catch you for the next one. Cheers.